The wind that swept through the narrow streets of Salonika in 1881 carried with it the scent of revolution and empire. The city, vibrant, diverse, Ottoman, was home to Jews, Greeks, Turks, and Slavs alike. In one modest house on Isla Hain Street, a child was born to Zubaydah Hanım and Ali Rıza Effendi. They named him Mustafa. His father, a minor customs official and lumber trader, died when Mustafa was just a boy. That early loss scarred the child, but it also hardened him. His mother, devout and strong, wanted him to become a religious scholar. Mustafa had other dreams shaped by books, military uniforms, and a smouldering sense that the empire around him was crumbling. At the Shemsi Effendi school, and later in the military academies of Monastir and Istanbul, he earned a new name, Kemal, meaning perfection. It was a teacher's gift, perhaps prophetic, for young Mustafa would come to embody the perfection of discipline, resolve, and vision. He studied mathematics with passion, adored history, and devoured Enlightenment literature. Voltaire and Rousseau whispered ideas of republicanism and freedom in his ears. The empire was sick, and he knew it. Reform would not be enough. Surgery would be required. As he advanced through his studies, Mustafa Kemal began to cultivate an identity that defied the constraints of tradition. He was analytical and composed with a natural gift for leadership. His discipline made him stand out, but it was his unrelenting sense of purpose that began to draw others to him. By the dawn of the 20th century, Mustafa Kemal was a young officer with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. He witnessed Ottoman defeats in Libya and the Balkans. He wrote essays criticizing the inefficiencies of the Sultan's army. He trained tirelessly, rising through the ranks not by connections, but by competence. His first taste of real command came in Libya, fighting the Italians in 1911. There, he learned the terrain of war, its chaos, its cruelty, its necessity. But it was in Gallipoli that he would become a legend. He served with distinction during the Balkan Wars, which left the Ottoman military further demoralized. But Mustafa Kemal remained undeterred. He viewed military failure as a challenge to overcome, not a reason to retreat. He began building a vision not only of national defense, but of national awakening. The Dardanelles. British and Anzac forces launched a massive invasion to take the Straits and knock the Ottoman Empire out of the Great War. Mustafa Kemal, then a colonel, stood upon the ridges overlooking Anzac Cove. Realizing that his superiors were too slow, he acted on his own. He commanded his men to dig in and hold the line. "Men, I am not ordering you to attack," he said. "I am ordering you to die." And they did, by the thousands, but the invaders never broke through. Bullets whizzed through the air, earth exploded skyward, and stones rained down like shrapnel. Officers ducked, soldiers prayed. But Mustafa Kemal walked upright through the chaos. His map case hung firm at his side, his shoulders squared. He moved not as a distant commander, but as a soldier among soldiers, inspecting the front. Then it happened. A sudden blast, a ringing in the ears, a wave of heat, a violent jolt. Mustafa Kemal had been struck in the chest. His officers rushed toward him in horror. One cried out, "The Pasha's been shot!" But he did not fall. Raising his hands, he demanded silence. Slowly, he reached toward his chest. He lifted the leather map case. There, lodged in the shattered face of his pocket watch, was a bullet. The metal had cracked, the glass was shattered, but the round had not reached his heart. With calm resolve, he said, "It seems death is still waiting its turn." His aide would later recall, "Pasha, if that bullet had landed just a centimetre to the left, history would have taken a different path." Mustafa Kemal, clutching his ribs, sat for a moment to steady his breath. Then, rising again, he continued walking the lines. He refused morphine, refused a stretcher. He would not leave his soldiers. His gaze was sharper than before. The fire in his eyes now burned with fate itself. Even in the midst of death, he would not yield. The victory at Gallipoli was a bitter one. It cost countless lives, but it saved Istanbul. Mustafa Kemal emerged as the hero of the Ottoman defense, a name now spoken with reverence by allies and dread by enemies. He became a symbol of resilience, a myth in the making, and in the years to come, that myth would become the foundation of a nation. He was promoted to general and given command over larger forces. Yet with each success, his political instincts deepened. He began to see that the battlefield alone could not save his homeland. A new nation had to be imagined and created. As World War I ground to its end in 1918, the Ottoman Empire lay shattered. Istanbul was occupied by Allied forces. Anatolia, heart of the Turkish people, was divided up by foreign powers. Sultan Mehmed VI, weak and panicked, signed the humiliating Treaty of Sèvres. It was the death sentence of the Ottoman world, but Mustafa Kemal did not accept death. In 1919, he left Istanbul under the guise of inspecting demobilized troops. He landed in Samsun, and there on the misty shores of the Black Sea, the War of Independence began. The journey from that windswept shore to the heart of Anatolia was fraught with danger. He dodged spies, persuaded tribal leaders, and outmaneuvered both foreign armies and Ottoman loyalists. Step by step, province by province, he breathed life back into a conquered people. He published circulars, bold, defiant statements to the people, declaring that the nation must resist partition. He held congresses in Erzurum and Sivas, laying the groundwork for national unity. He rejected the Sultan's authority and called for a new government rooted in the will of the people. From Erzurum to Sivas to Ankara, Mustafa Kemal rallied resistance fighters, tribal leaders, peasants, and officers alike. He formed the Grand National Assembly in Ankara, a rival government to the Ottoman court. He faced impossible odds. The Greeks had seized the Aegean coast. Armenians threatened from the east. The French held Cilicia. Istanbul was under foreign control. But Mustafa Kemal understood strategy. He restructured what remained of the Ottoman army, gave stirring speeches to unify factions, and cultivated support among the people. His vision was clear. Sovereignty belonged not to sultans, but to the nation. Victory followed, slow, brutal, miraculous. Battles at Sakarya and Dumlupınar became milestones in Turkish memory. Through diplomacy and defiance, he outlasted empires. As Turkish forces won military victories, he also won moral and political ones. He emphasized popular sovereignty, constitutional governance, and national dignity, concepts that struck deep into the consciousness of a battered people. By 1922, the Sultanate was no more. The Grand National Assembly formally abolished it, and Mehmed VI fled Istanbul aboard a British warship, the last Ottoman Sultan leaving in disgrace. Mustafa Kemal was offered the crown. He refused. He did not fight to become another autocrat. He fought to birth a republic. And on October 29, 1923, he did. The Republic of Turkey was proclaimed, and Mustafa Kemal was elected its first president. The Caliphate, that centuries-old institution binding politics and religion, was soon abolished too. The era of divine rule had ended. But the war for Turkey's soul was not over. It had just changed form. From his new seat in Ankara, Mustafa Kemal began the true revolution, not of bullets, but of ideas. He believed Turkey had to break with its imperial past and embrace a secular, modern identity. The West, once conqueror, would now be rival and model. Roads were built, schools opened, industry planted, and science prioritized. The veil and fez were replaced by modern dress. The Latin alphabet replaced Arabic script. Women were granted rights unseen in much of the Muslim world. And at the heart of it all was a man working day and night, issuing reform after reform. To some, it was too much. To others, not enough. But none could deny that a nation was being reborn before their eyes. Not everyone welcomed change. The traditionalists saw heresy in the closure of religious schools and dervish lodges. The devout mourned the loss of the caliphate. Rural villages struggled to understand the new laws, the new dress codes, the new alphabet. There were uprisings, like the Sheikh Zayed Rebellion in 1925. Mustafa Kemal responded with decisive force. He believed the Republic's survival required clarity and strength. Compromise, in his eyes, was the seed of future chaos. He established the independence tribunals to prosecute sedition. He pushed forward the hat law, changing the symbol of identity on Turkish heads. He created a directorate of religious affairs to control, rather than erase, religion's role. Was he a dictator? Some would say yes. Others saw him as the necessary iron hand in a fragile hour. Either way, his rule was unmatched in its transformation. He toured the country in trains and motorcars, speaking in factories and town halls, insisting that the new Turkey belonged to all, not just the elite, not just the capital. And perhaps most radically of all, he granted women the vote, first in municipal elections in 1930, then in general elections by 1934, long before many Western nations had done the same. A republic could not stand on law alone. It needed myth. It needed soul. Ataturk, father of the Turks, as he was now officially named, understood this better than anyone. He encouraged the rewriting of Turkish history. No longer would schoolchildren be taught that they were merely heirs of the Ottomans. Now they would learn of the Hittites, the Phrygians, and the Central Asian Turks, an ancient, proud lineage stretching back millennia. Language was reformed. Turkish words replaced Arabic and Persian ones. The Turkish Language Association was formed to purify and modernize the tongue of the people. He ordered architecture that echoed Anatolian roots. Statues rose in town squares. New anthems were composed. National holidays were renamed and reimagined. Ataturk was not just reforming a country, he was sculpting a national consciousness. And like all great sculptors, he worked with chisel and fire. This was not a nation by accident. It was a nation by will.